No two organizations are alike, and neither are managers' jobs. But managers' jobs do share some common elements. This chapter introduces us to 3 approaches to describing what managers do: the 4 functions approach, the management roles approach, and the skills and competencies approach. While the study of management became more measured and managerial theories evolved over time, as did the ideas about what a manager's role was within the organization, you will observe this as we discuss the various approaches. The most fundamental of these approaches is the 4 functions approach. We will spend more time elaborating on each of these individual functions as the class progresses. One of the main things I want you to take away from this course is the understanding of the 4 functions of management and what takes place at each of those steps. So, managers perform certain activities, tasks, or functions as they direct and oversee others' work. This approach was first proposed by French industrialist Henri Fayol. He said managers engage in 5 management activities: to plan, organize, command, coordinate, and control. His choice of these 5 functions was based on his own observations of the mining industry and not from a formal survey. Today, those management functions have been condensed to the following 4. Planning, which includes defining goals, establishing strategies, and developing plans to coordinate activities. Planning is the most fundamental and arguably the most important step in the management process. The second, organizing. This includes determining which tasks are needed to be done and by whom, how those tasks are grouped, and who reports to whom, and who will make the decisions. That means that we take the goals and strategies that we have established, and we figure out exactly who's going to do what and how. Leading includes motivating employees, selecting the most effective communication channels, and resolving conflict. This function takes place during the implementation process. Implementation can be very difficult, and finding the right way to lead people through it a challenge. And finally, controlling, which includes monitoring performance, comparing it with goals, and correcting any significant deviations. Many times we look at a task at hand and think, okay, I figured out the solution, I've taken the steps to put it into place, and I'm rolling. The challenge is if we don't measure our progress to ensure that we are being effective, and then make changes if we're not, we may have what we consider to be a great plan of action, but we never know if we're actually achieving what we set out to do. In the late 1960s, Henry Mintzberg dispelled long-held notions that managers were reflective thinkers who carefully processed information before making decisions. His empirical study of 5 chief executives showed that managers perform 10 different but highly interrelated roles. He categorized these actions around the following 3 general categories: interpersonal relationships, the figurehead, the leader, and the liaison. Think about ribbon-cutting ceremonies or accepting an award on behalf of the organization. Informational transfer, monitoring, the disseminator of information, and the spokesperson, aka the head communications officer or person in charge of delivering important messages. And finally, the decision-making role, the entrepreneur, the disturbance handler, the resource allocator, and negotiator. Most of us probably think of managers in terms of their decision-making roles most prevalently, but it's important to remember that they wear many hats. Another way to describe what managers do is by looking at the skills that they need for managing. Management researcher Robert L. Katz and others described 4 critical skills. Conceptual skills involved analyzing and diagnosing complex situations to see how things fit together and to facilitate making good decisions, also known as the ability to see the big picture. Interpersonal skills involve working well with others, both individually and in groups, by communicating, motivating, mentoring, and delegating. Oftentimes, interpersonal skills will be more heavily used by middle managers and first-line managers because they are the ones interacting with employees on a day-to-day basis. Technical skills are job-specific knowledge, expertise, and techniques needed to perform work tasks. For top-level managers, knowledge of the industry is very important, and they might require a more general understanding of the organization's processes and products. For middle and lower level managers, more specialized knowledge might be required in the areas where they work: finance, human resources, marketing, and computer systems. Political skills require building a power base and establishing the right connections so that they can get needed resources for their groups. Keep in mind, while we have identified these 4 skills as necessary to managers, all employees within an organization should possess a varied level of each of these skills. A laborer might spend more of his time focused on his specific job or task at hand than he does thinking about how his job contributes to the organization as a whole. But he will interact with other employees and might have an informal work group of people that have very similar beliefs about the organization. What I'm saying is that most successful employees possess these skills and use them in different capacities.